have a warm welcome. In this impressive video, you will learn how to give the fastest and cheapest possible solution to the green water in your pool. Throughout the video, I will show you all the cases of green water and you simply have to identify which one is yours and follow the instructions, steps that I show you one by one, so that you can treat the green water in 30 minutes, you heard right, 30 minutes, or maybe 2 hours, 4 hours, or up to 48 hours. Without further ado, let's start. Very good. First, I'm gonna show you all the possible cases that you can get to face and I will be pointing them. And you just need to look for your case in the video. The first case is when you only have green algae at the bottom and it's basically completely crystal clear on the surface and you can see normally the bottom. The second case is when you have the water with a slightly green tone but you can still see clearly the bottom. The third case is when you already have green and cloudy water but it's cold at some 25 Celsius degrees or less. The fourth case is when you have the water cloudy and green and it's been a few days or even up to 3 months at most. Case 5 is when it's been more than 3 months and you obviously have the water green and cloudy and there are a lot of algae on the surface or on the bottom. And the last case, number 6, is when it's been more than 6 months and you already have the water not even green but brown or black. And sometimes in less than those 6 months, this could happen if you have the water way too hot and way too dirty. So you have brown or even black water. And to give you a bonus, there is a 7th case at which you have green water but after adding chlorine. So now I'll be giving you the simplest, fastest and cheapest possible solution in every case. Let's go for it. On the first case, when you have the bottom with green algae but the water is completely crystal clear, the solution is not gonna take you more than 30 minutes and it's simply perform a vacuum cleaning of the bottom. On this video I'm not showing you how to install the vacuum cleaner, so I jump to the part at which I'm already vacuuming. And as you can see, you just need to vacuum the bottom to waste. Careful with this, I mean draining the water that you are vacuuming to any waste drain you have, and after vacuuming and having the water completely crystal clear, it's just time to add 4 parts per million of chlorine to make sure you disinfect well the water. You just need to get to the app, to the option chlorine, enter the data of your pool, and in this case you must enter 4 parts per million on the desired chlorine. Click in calculate and you will know the amount that you need to add. You can use, as I in this situation, cal hypo or any type of chlorine you prefer. You obviously also need to adjust pH. This pH must be between 7.2 to 7.6. You might need to reduce or increase it and the app will tell you what chemical to use in every case. And that's everything. The second case, at which you have green water with algae but you can see the bottom clearly, it's solved in 30 minutes just like case number 1. You obviously need at first to adjust pH. So step 1 is to measure pH, adjust it. In this situation I don't adjust it since I have it between 7.2 to 7.6, and the only difference before you vacuum the bottom is that you must first perform a shock of chlorine. I will recommend you just to add 6 parts per million of chlorine. So get to the app, into the parameters section, option chlorine, enter the data of your pool. Where it says desired chlorine, place 6 parts per million, click in calculate and add the calculated chlorine. This time I will use cal hypo. You just need to add the chlorine to a bucket of water, mix it very well so that it mixes completely. For this treatment I recommend to use whether dichlor, cal hypo, or in an ideal way liquid chlorine known as bleach. Then add it walking around the pool, and since you haven't vacuumed the bottom yet, don't stir the water yet. Step number 3 is already the vacuum cleaning. Just introduce the hose of your vacuum cleaner. In this example, I'm doing it with an external pump, so I need to prime the pump and start to vacuum the bottom, sending the water to the waste. If you want to know how to configure your valves in the situation you have a pump and a filter, you just need to get to the app, manage your pool, to the solutions section, green water option, and search for the step that says vacuum to the waste. And in there you will be able to see how to configure your valves and how to place the filter. And the only thing left is to vacuum. Once you finish vacuuming the bottom, the water now should be completely crystal clear. Last thing to do to bathe is to measure the pH and chlorine. Make sure you have 3 parts per million chlorine or less, and pH between 7.2 to 7.6. Great! The third case is when you already have green water, but it's also cloudy, and it hasn't been too long since it's green and cloudy. That means less than some 2 weeks. And it must be fulfilled that the water is not higher than about 25 degrees Celsius. Because if it's a higher temperature, in there microorganisms can proliferate very easily. And in this situation that the water is green and cloudy, but it hasn't been more than some 2 weeks, and it's cold, you still have the chance to treat the water in 12 at most 24 hours. The steps now are: first, adjust the pH. In this situation is between 7.2 to 7.6, so it does not need adjustment. If you have it a little bit high, you can leave it high, but you might need a little bit more chlorine. But if it's low, I mean below 7.2, you need to increase it. To do this, get to the app Manage Your Pool, to the Parameters section, option pH, and introduce the data of your pool. If you don't understand any of this data, or you would like me to help you personally to verify that you have done the calculation correctly, I will be gladly to help you through the consultation button of the app, for which you only need to become a premium member, and this membership is very cheap. As the pH makes effect, give it a good brush. This because since the water has more time being green, the algae might have get stuck in the walls. After this brushing, add chlorine. You must shock the pool from 10 to 20 parts per million of chlorine. So mix the chlorine and add it well distributed around the pool. Once you add it, shake the water a little. This can be done with the pump and the filter or manually. And then almost immediately you can add the flock. Just get to the section Parameters, Flocculant option, and introduce the data that it requests, where it says turbidity, point medium if you're going to use aluminum sulfate, and point low if you're going to use a liquid clarifier. There are even some very good brands with which you have to add just the half the amount calculated in the app. But if you want to play safe, add the amount calculated in the app. Just mix this flock in a bucket of water for some minutes and add it well distributed around the pool. This example was made for YouTube, so please never ever try to mix something with your hands, like in this video. Then add the flock around the pool and just let the water rest for 12 hours at minimum, or if everything doesn't sink in the bottom past 24 hours. After those 18 hours, like in this situation, everything will be settled at the bottom. So all that it's missing is to vacuum the bottom, sending the water to the waste. This time I'm using an external pump, but if you have a pump and filter installed, you can set your valves, getting to the app, to the section Solutions, option Green Water, and clicking the step that says Vacuum to Waste. In there you can see how to set your valves, or you can also ask me to help you with your valves through the bottom consults in the app. And once you finish vacuuming with the water completely crystal clear, just make sure to have the chlorine level between 1 to 3 parts per million to take a safe swim, and pH between 7.2 to 7.6. That's it. The fourth situation, green water, that you could be facing is that one when you already have the water green and cloudy for 1 month or more, even up to 3 months. Or if the water was way too hot and the days were very sunny, this could happen in 2 weeks up to 1 month. And this time the solution is a little bit longer, because this time you must follow all the steps that shows the app Manage Your Pool, getting to the Solutions section and Green Water option. I'm just going to show you now how to perform each one of those steps. The first thing is to remove the leaves and all debris with your leaf net. Then you must brush all the pool completely from the walls to the floor to get the algae loosened. Then adjust the pH between 7.2 to 7.6. You might need to increase it or reduce it. Clean the baskets of the skimmer and the pump. I'm showing you these accessories from a different pool because this one doesn't have those accessories. accessories. Then perform a backwash or clean cartridges depending on your filter. In the step I show you in the app right now, you will find how to configure your valves to perform this backwash. As a next step, perform a super chlorination. The minimum in this case would be 20 parts per million, which is the amount I'm going to add in this example. Just mix the amount of chlorine calculated in the app in a bucket of water and then add it well distributed walking around the pool. Now, if you have a filter, let the water filtering for 24 hours. Generally, nothing will happen to the pump in this time. That way, the pipes and filter get cleaned, and also the chlorine acts much better and faster. And if you don't have a filter and pump, just let the water rest during those 24 hours, having mixed it manually previously. After those 24 hours, add the flock or clarifier. Calculate it in the app, section parameters, option flocculant, enter your pool details. The type of turbidity would be medium, and if you will use a good brand liquid clarifier, you can add the half of the amount that calculates the app. Mix well the flock in a bucket of water for a few minutes and then add it well distributed walking around the pool. Now wait 12 to 24 hours with the water resting completely. After that time, you will see everything sink at the bottom. And the last thing to do is vacuum to waste. Be careful that you should never vacuum to the filter because the flock clumps the filter sand. Finally, wait until chlorine lowers to 3 parts per million or less so that you can take a safe swim. And that's it. Okay, now we go to a much more complicated case, which is the case 5, at which you already have the water green and cloudy with a much higher algae formation floating and at the bottom. This happens generally from 3 months up that the water has been cloudy, and the solution is similar to case 4. The time for this treatment is from 36 to 48 hours, just like the last case. First thing you need to do is take away all the dirt with your lift net from the surface and also from the bottom of the pool. This so that the chlorine later doesn't need to fight too much against algae, and therefore you don't need too much chlorine. Look that this is very slow, and you must take all the algae you can with your lift net. Get ready, because here you might smell bad odor. After that, it is necessary to perform a vacuum of the bottom by sending the water to waste. This to finish taking away all the algae in excess you have at the bottom. Look at how the bottom gets to be out of algae as I finish vacuuming. You will probably need to clean the pump basket a few times during this process. And if you want to know how to set your valves and filter for this process, get to the app Manage Your Pool, to the very section Solutions, option Green Water, and in the step that says Vacuum to Waste, you will see how to set up your valves. After having done these first 2 steps, all the rest is the same as the last step. I mean, now you have to do a complete brushing of the walls and the floor to get the algae lost. Then measure and adjust pH between 7.2 to 7.6. This time I had the pH very high, so I needed to reduce it with pH reducer. Use ideally chlorhydric or muriatic acid, and there are also other alternatives. Mix the pH reducer in a bucket of water and add it well distributed walking around the pool. Then clean the pump and skimmer baskets if you didn't already do that, because you already did the vacuuming to waste. Then perform a filter backwash or clean your cartridges depending on the filter you have. In the app Solutions section Green Water option, you will find this step to perform the backwash of the filter. And as a next step, perform a super chlorination. Minimum here would be 40 parts per million, and you might need much more chlorine. Just calculate this chlorine by clicking the option to calculate chlorine inside the Green Water option, and the calculated amount of chlorine, that in my situation I'm using 40 parts per million, you must mix in a bucket of water and then add it well distributed walking around the pool. Then, if you have a filter, let the water filtering for 24 hours. This so that chlorine makes much more effect, and so that filter and tubes get to be cleaned. Don't worry, nothing is going to happen to the pump during this time. And if you don't have a pump and filter, just let the water rest during these 24 hours. After those 24 hours, now that chlorine has disinfected the water correctly, it's about time to add flock. Calculate the necessary amount in the app, parameters option, flock calculator, filter, enter the data of your pool. I recommend to choose medium turbidity, and if you're going to use a liquid clarifier of a good brand, you can use the half of the amount that the app calculates. Mix it well in a bucket of water for 3 minutes and add it well distributed walking around the pool. Now wait again 12 to 24 hours so that everything decants at the bottom with the water at rest. After that time, you will see that everything is already settled at the bottom. And now it's time for a last vacuum to waste. You can see that in this process you lost a lot of water, so you have to refill all the water you get to lose. It might be some 12 to 15 inches. And after vacuuming the bottom, you just need to wait until chlorine lowers to 3 parts per million or less, and you will be able to take a safe swim. Perfect! Finally, this last situation is when you already have the water green for some 6 months or maybe more, at a point that the water has changed to brown or black. For example, this one that has toads, spiders and aquatic bugs, and an endless amount of algae that have already changed the color. You will be surprised because this is the only case at which the solution is to empty the water, clean the pool and refill it back, because the amounts of chlorine you would need to use in this case is huge. So step 1 is to begin to empty the pool. To do this, you can use the very pump of the pool, like in this case, or a submersible pump. Just set the filter in the waste position, configure your valve, closing the skimmer and opening the main drain, and turn on your pump. Look at how disgusting is the water that gets to be wasted. Step 2 is to remove all the debris you can from the bottom and the surface with your lift net. This so that the pump does not get clogged. And this process can take you a lot of time, depending on how many algae you have. In this example, there were too many. When the pool is almost empty, step 3 is to wash the walls and the floor well with pressurizer water. If you have algae stuck to the walls, you need also to clean with a sponge and a chlorine solution. And if you have scale, clean it with a descaling solution. As it is getting empty, it's also necessary to perform a backwash of the filter or to clean cartridges. Besides, clean the baskets of the pump and the skimmer. Remember that if you have doubts performing any of these steps, you can ask me personally through the bottom consults in the app Manage Your Pool. Finally, fill it back with new water and perform a last backwash of the filter, but this time having the chlorine level in the water very high, so that the pipes, pump and filter get to be very well disinfected. This time it was also necessary to paint back again the pool because the painting was really old and it is a concrete pool. So by doing all these steps, you will have the pool in perfect conditions. And you're done. And that's everything for this video. Now you know the easiest, cheapest and fastest possible solution depending on how green you have the water in your pool. Remember that if you have any question or doubt, through the bottom consults in the app Manage Your Pool, you can ask me personally all your questions. The shopping is completely safe through the Google Play Store or the App Store. If you like the video, subscribe, because I upload one new video with the best info about pools for you every week. See you later!